Welcome to the She Births Show, a place to inspire your birth, evolve your parenting, and help you live a life you love. I'm Nadine Richardson, your host and creator of the scientifically verified birth education program, She Births. I'm also a mother, yoga teacher, doula, author, and speaker. At She Births, we have supported thousands of families around the world for over 13 years with our unique program, and our vision is to make birth better for every family around the world so that everyone experiences a beautiful birth no matter what unfolds. Not only do we help people have beautiful births, but we also give them the skills and the philosophy to enjoy pregnancy and make parenting easier. As well as our world-class birth ed, taken either face-to-face or online in our app, we also have a free pregnancy guide designed to help you feel calm, connected, and inspired as you and your baby grow. We have a doula matching service, the perfect way to ensure you and your partner are completely supported throughout the whole journey. And we have our Soul Mama Circles, which are the perfect postpartum network to help optimize your mindset and design your life in parenthood. Remember, if you like what you hear today, subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. If you're a parent, about to be one, fellow health professional, join us now for an inspirational deep dive into topics with experts around the globe. We hope you enjoy this special episode. Hi there, and welcome to our new little segment in the podcast, Ask Us Anything. There are so many questions that arise as you become pregnant and approach birth, and amongst all that excitement and the love, it's totally normal to feel overwhelmed and nervous. So that's why we've created the Ask Us Anything events on Instagram and this podcast. Today, you will hear snippets of my conversation with two of our educators, Siboulet and Sarah Beale, who both work with me at our Vaucluse venue in Sydney. Starting off, we've got Caitlin and myself talking about induction and the Group B strep testing, whether you need to do it, how to do it your way, how to decline if you wish, risks and benefits, and so on, and the same with induction. And with Sarah, we've got lots of questions, primarily about postpartum. That's what came up, talking about, what to do after birth and who to call in to support with lactation and settling the baby and so on. And with both our educators, I talk about why they became an educator, what's different between being a midwife and an educator and a doula, and how they're such different roles and they have, very different kind of values and priorities. There's different things going on in the mind of each person, and we should be aware of that before we give birth, because so often we go in to give birth and we have expectations that we didn't even realize we had. So I hope you enjoy our Ask Us Anything sessions. I'll see you soon. Feel free to send any more questions in. Well, I was just introducing you and I was saying, we met many years ago on the streets of Bondi. I think you came up to me a number of times. It's like, what are you doing with women? I want to work with She Births. I have to work with She Births.
Yeah, because you when I started doulaing, you referred me clients.
Yeah.
And I really noticed the difference. I was like, what are you putting in that Kool-Aid, woman? I want to know and I want to get it out there. So
yeah,
I harassed you, didn't I, for a while?
Great. That's what you need to do. That's what we need to do. That's how I know that someone really is a good, committed, devoted person, I think. Yeah. And so you've been a doula now for 14 years.
No, longer now.
Longer. That's what I thought. Yeah, we have to
be updated for forever, because I did my doula training now 20 years ago.
Yeah, the course before me. Yeah.
Yep, 20 years ago. So I was pregnant 20 years ago. I did it while I was pregnant. So it's easy to remember.
Yeah.
And it all started then. I didn't think I was going to be a doula, but, you know, life had different plans for me,
Yeah.
best. So now I've just continued that journey, keeping on finding out more. I love doulaing. You know, in fact, I think it's just one of the most amazing jobs in the world if anyone's thinking about it. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. But, you know, you've done the big step, and I suppose, you know, you nearly finished the midwifery training.
Yeah.
Lots of people from uni into midwifery, and there's a really
Yeah.
high dropout rate, really
Yeah.
high.
Right. Yeah.
You, girl, there's a whole cohort of our friends that have actually come from doulaing, Lucretia and Nads and you and so many others. And you must be like an absolute gift, like the mature age students who've got all these years of doulaing behind you. You must be so different to the other students, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think you know, having a look now, like, because what I'm kind of, you know, almost to the end. So, you know, last exams on Monday, and then we've got the final term. And so, kind of looking at the course now, I'm so, so glad I did all of that doulaing. I feel like it's beautiful preparation for becoming a midwife. And, you know, I do think that it is hard for the students to, you know, because we start learning about natural physiology in the first year and all the kind of best evidence-based practice about continuity of care and natural physiology, but it's not obviously what's happening in our hospital system. Due to like mitigations of risk and things like that. So then there's this real kind of mismatch of, you know, what we know is kind of works and what we know is right and what we kind of see happening, and then there's kind of legal implications and all this kind of stuff that comes on top of it. So it's really hard. Plus, it's a big course, a massive course. So you do need to be dedicated. But I think from my perspective, being a doula first is, you know, I think amazing foundation for midwifery.
We're talking about this today, isn't it? Like, as a doula, we are the person at the coalface for the longest amount of time, you know, and we know physiological birth and we know how to support physiological birth. And I think it can be so hard for midwives who have to go in and out of different women and get busier and busier, whereas we are there. Like, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, fully for that couple, will be with them the whole time and advocating for them, whereas the midwife can't do that necessarily. They're often compromised by, you know, time constraints and politics and policies and protocols and all of that kind of thing. So that's where,
Yeah, it's amazing because you do have that continuity, that one-on-one, you just be with them. Also, you're not, you know, as a doula, you're there as that physical, emotional support. As a midwife, you're there to kind of support that physiology, but also to kind of recognize when things are kind of not kind of going to plan. So you're always kind of trying to think a little bit of a step ahead or what's happening or what you can do. So then there's like multiple layers of different guidelines and documentation and loads of stuff, loads and loads. So your thoughts are actually going completely in a whole lot of other direction. In fact, I think I remember time last year going, you know, I can't believe this job has actually got so many facets to it. Like they just keep putting more and more into it and less, I guess, one-on-one care. And then we wonder why, there's difficulty in then, you know, being with women, you know, because midwife is, you know, the actual term means to be with women. But in our society, unless you're kind of just having a kind of normal natural birth at home, a physiological birth at home, it's very hard to achieve that in the hospital system. as we all know, I think, So,
Well,
yeah.
we know, but I think it's news to other people. I think we often go into birth as a pregnant person within a kind of subconscious expectation, this kind of imagined scenario, and you have to really bring that into consciousness and own what that is. What is the dream birth that you actually imagine, and is it matching up to where you are and the choices you want to are making, and so on. And that's that process of birth education. You like working it out together. So, I mean, how did being a she-birth educator change the way you dual it or the way you practice as a midwife?
Yeah, well, I think it's amazing actually, because I got a beautiful message from my first ever she-birth client who I dualed for just like a couple of days ago, and she's just sent me a beautiful message along the lines of, thank you for awakening me to, connection to myself. It's the first time that had ever happened in my life. And I just, I think from that experience, I know it was just like, what? Oh my God, that ability to connect in with ourselves, I think, is huge, right? And so sometimes it takes being pregnant and gathering that support and going, I know I need some extra support. And then I think the combination with the she-birth education, you have that kind of toolkit that you can work with, so I think being a doula for so many years and then kind of building in the education side and then the other stuff, it's kind of like a natural progression. Do you know what I mean? So I think that, educating itself is very different to doulaing. So often come across, very talkative and very kind of, I guess, different in that style. But then doulaing is more about, you've got all of this information, you're available to have it, but what is it that you want to know, and how do you connect in with yourself, and what is right for you? Exactly what you're saying, like what is it that you want or dream about, or even that you know about yourself. I think that kind of intuition, because there's no right or wrong, like as we know, there's no right or wrong. So I think that having she-births and having that foundation of the most natural, the most beautiful birth keeps you kind of grounded in, I guess, a little bit of a counterbalance to what is happening in our society around all the anxiety and all the kind of medicalization. So it kind of goes, okay, for women who are wanting that, because a lot of women do want that, but a lot of women are afraid as well. But for women who are do wanting that, it's like kind of going back to that. Okay, so, where is it that you sit within that whole kind of arena, I guess?
Yeah, that spectrum.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So I suppose some of the questions that have come through are good to discuss, because the ones this week have been like hot topics for years, building and building in conversation. And the first one has been, love to know what you guys think about Group B strep testing, also what's it often called just GBS. So tell us, because I think you're writing a paper.
Oh, look, I've got, so as we kind of go through the midwifery course, it kind of gets more and more, we look at more and more complexities. Okay. So, I've got kind of the years of understanding how that affects women and what their thoughts are and different options that you can do. And then now looking at it from the other side of, okay, what's happening internally to the body with infection, if it does happen, what are the rates? It's an incredibly controversial topic, GBS, because we a lot of the hospitals routinely screen for it. Obviously they don't in not all states routinely screen for it.
I think they do less screening across their big hospitals there as well. And the UK does no.
Yeah, so that's right. UK and I think New Zealand as well doesn't. So where, you know, up the kind of policy as part of my kind of study for my exam, and you know, New South Wales Health is kind of interesting because it's basically saying either do a risk-based approach or a general across the base screening. Okay, so you know, and looking at kind of rates of GBS. So like sepsis is what you're worried about. We're worried about obviously the baby getting an infection from the group Streptococcus B, the GBS. Okay, so it's one of those things that's very rare. It's a normal bacteria. It sits in about 10 to 30% of women. Not an issue for us at all. If it does travel up to the baby, or if the baby does get infected, you know, through birth, then there is like a 0.5 in 1,000% chance they will get sepsis, right? So that's, you know, 1 in every 2,000 will get sepsis. From that, there is a risk of about 4 to 6% of those babies then dying. Okay, so that's what the big deal is about. It's a lot. And so, you know, that's why it is so controversial, because it is such small numbers, but then it is such a large effect. Okay, so women, we know women will do anything for their babies. We all are that woman. We all have been that woman. We will, you know, have completely everything at birth for our babies, right? So with the induction, which we're going to, you know, touch on later, but it is why it's so controversial. But if you don't want to do like the general kind of screening that's offered to everyone, then you can do a risk-based approach. And what are the risks? So if we're looking at kind of a risk-based approach, you would look at kind of if you had GBS, and a urinary tract infection. Okay, so often women will get screened for urinary tract infections. And at that, then you might consider if you had prolonged rupture of membranes, right, for so more than
labour off and on for like 4 or 5 days or something like that. Yeah,
and saying that, you know, it is really important if you do have prolonged rupture of membranes that you are protective of yourself and your baby, and that means no vaginal exams. Like in the vagina if you have broken your waters. You know, so they can offer you a speculum, which is a sterile way to check. So I feel like, you know, that's really important. And I think one of the other is if you do have infection, like in pregnancy, if you do have a vaginal infection, then that can kind of disrupt the kind of flora in the vagina, and make it more prone to other things like GBS and stuff like that. So, so those are that's the kind of, when you're looking at that kind of risk base, that's what you're looking at.
Kind of perspective on it. I suppose then there's the alternative health practitioners, the naturopathic herbalist perspective. Like, so I suppose just letting that person know, you know, you can request no testing, you could decline on no testing, or you could decline on antibiotics as well if your waters are broken as well. And you could request that your baby is monitored after birth. And so they're checked, is it every 4 hours?
Yeah. So basically, you know, it is a transient bacteria as well. So you can be tested at some point in time and then not have it later, or vice versa. That's the other reason it's so controversial. And we don't test for it in labour, which it seems ridiculous to me. But anyway, so you can just refuse it. I've known lots of women who's, you know, obviously doula, and you have everybody from all ranges. So I've had women who've been allergic to antibiotics, but they wanted to know, they haven't wanted to register it with the hospital, they've tested with their GP, right? So there's kind of ways women find around things. Or other times they've, used like, I guess, probiotics or even like a prophylactic garlic tampon, which I don't think is recommended anymore. But garlic.
Quite good. I think there's a really good new one on the market, and I don't know what it's called, but I know that like naturopaths, integrative doctors, herbalists as well help with that. And so some women just, if they do test positive, they'll then go and like apply this probiotic vaginally, transvaginal, and then ask for a retest as well.
The thing, like whatever, we know our immune system is based in our guts, right? So if we have lots of vegetables and all that kind of stuff, really good gut microbiome, we're less likely to have bacterial infections. So like the pH of your vagina naturally is protective against bacterial infections coming up. It's a flushing out system. So, we're slightly immune compromised in pregnancy. So what we want to do, is just make sure we're eating all of that really beautiful, healthy vegetables, and we're staying really on top of our gut flora as much as possible. Those kinds of things will, protect that potentiality of the infection before labor and birth. And then during, yes, if you don't want to do it, those are protective mechanisms. And then during, nothing up the vagina, man, nothing up there. So, those are kind of like, I guess, and then, monitoring babies. So it's every 4 hours that you would take their observations. Some women even do it at home if they don't want to stay in the hospital. They take the baby's thermometer, underneath the arm, and most babies will get it within the first 24 hours. I think I got the like it's really high. So that's why they would recommend. And sometimes women will have like really fast births. They won't even get the antibiotics on board, right? So that happens a lot too, particularly with second-time babies. And had one woman who birthed at home recently because she had really fast births. She had GBS for all of her pregnancies. But she's never going to get the antibiotics in on time, and they take 4 hours to work. So she just watches a baby. So that's
you could have one like mine that's like 5 days from rupture of membranes to labour beginning, and then labour begins, and at 12 hours you might have the antibiotics, but the baby's not born for another 24. So God knows.
Every 4 hours. Every 4 hours they give it to you as well in labour. It's a lot.
20 years different.
That's right. I was the same 20 years ago. I had everything too. I didn't I know that about? We know that about each other. I think I had like 3 or 4 days as well, ruptured membranes.
Yeah.
I mean, all the things I had 20 years ago and then, 12 years ago, I would be risked out every normal birth process in our system at the moment. I've been realizing that, like everything.
That's really intense. That's really intense. Yeah. And I think risk factors, having risk factors is not the same as a medical condition. And I think this kind of leads into, the conversation around induction, which is someone's written in, I'm 36 weeks, contemplating induction in the weeks to come, help. I suppose at 36 weeks, and someone might be saying, like, I don't know, someone might be recommending a stretch and sweep, or someone might be recommending, a full induction, I don't know, at 40 weeks or 41 weeks. There's different protocols. That's the first thing to understand. There's different protocols and different policies in different hospitals due to postcodes in different areas, and between different obstetricians from 3 meters from one room to the other. So you really do need to do your homework, and this is a unique situation for people, and risk factors are not medical conditions is a good one to start off with, I think, with the whole induction thing, just because of your age.
I think that's really interesting because a paper came out last year. I'm just kind of having a quick look at the stats while we're chatting, by Hannah looking at almost 70,000 induction. So this was over a long period of time. I think it's 16 years anyway. So she looked at like 475,000 births almost. And out of those, 15%, so 70,000, had induction for non-medical reasons. Okay, so every woman is going to be offered an induction post 41 weeks. Every single woman is going to be offered. Yeah.
And then date just keeps getting pushed further and further. So a huge percentage would be offered at 40 weeks, be offered it at 39 weeks, be told at 36, 37, 38 to like schedule it in.
Oh, yeah. And definitely like at 41 weeks, you're not then scheduling it in. It's already scheduled between, you know what I mean? So it's being talked about, absolutely. 36, 37, 38. Every woman knows it's coming. It's a decision that they're going to have to make. But what's interesting about this study was that it shows huge amounts of other interventions, you know, which is not what's talked about. So what's talked about is there's a couple of studies that say that, you know, between 41 to 42 weeks, if you have an induction, again, they look at stillbirth. So that's what they're looking at. But they're not talking about, okay, all of these other things that can happen if you do have an induction. And it's a lot. There's a lot of stuff going on there. So it makes it really, really challenging for women. And we do know, like, if it is really early, if you know, there was a study that came out a couple of years ago that was saying, 39 weeks is better than 41 weeks. And I even had, the Arrive trial, and I even had one of the obstetricians talk to me about that, going, I think we're going to look back at that and say it was similar to the breach trial, you know, which has since been, you know, which changes the face of how we do everything, but yet the evidence is not, you know, very strong for it. You know, I think there was like 50,000 women they asked to do the trial or were eligible, and only 6 opted in. And so you've got to kind of think that's not a kind of look at what our population's like.
No.
And also, you know, it's kind of quite different to some of the other stuff. So, and they were just looking at cesarean rates, whereas this is saying the cesarean rates are definitely higher. So, yeah, I think it's one of those.
Research is conflicting. Research is complex, you know, and I think that's when you ask the conversations, when you're using, you know, your She Births education, like your brand, or in some courses it's benefits, risks, alternatives. I think it's really important to like, well, can you point me in the direction of the evidence? And if a caregiver is not having the conversation with you, that should be a red flag. If it's just a statistic that gets thrown at you around stillbirth rates, not in detailed, you know, so sometimes a stat might get thrown at a woman saying, well, if you don't do it, you know, you double if you don't do this induction now, you are doubling the chance of your baby being born, you know, as a stillbirth. But no one explaining to that woman that there's, you know, you've gone from 1 in 4,000 to 1 in 2,000. And that's a different kind of active and a more honest conversation. And I think, you know,
goes from like 1 in 200.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, no, sorry, I didn't let you finish. But yes, it's very similar. Like I was looking at a woman who, you know, she'd opted for a breech birth, and we were looking at all the kind of notes that had gone through, and you know the documentation I was talking to you about, we were just kind of reading it, and you know, explaining that it had gone from, you know, 1 in 100 risk to 1 in 200 risk, which is not 1 in 200 to 1 in 100, which is not that big, right? So, but based on that, there's hardly anywhere that will do breech birth. Everyone gets cesareans. So, Yeah, and this I think is even kind of less stats than that. But we are looking at something that's more significant. And they've been trying for a long time to reduce stillbirth rates, right? So, there's the thing we do know about that is that women know when something's wrong. And the message of all the kind of fetal movements and things like that is it's not necessarily the movements per se, but it's more that something's changed, something's not right, and women think, okay, I'll come in tomorrow because I've got an appointment. But that's the thing that makes the difference, is that when women come in and there's an issue, that's the reality. So coming back to our original conversation about that intuition, getting in touch with yourself, knowing knowing your body, your baby, and induction is great. If you have got medical issues and the baby needs to come out for whatever reason, maybe preeclampsia or whatever, yes, don't get me wrong, I'm medical interventions have saved my life a few times, and I would never say no to them. It's when they are done for, like you said, reasons that I guess a non-medical or not that very strong evidence, whatever.
Evidence, not a conversation, and I think most people don't.
Not presented as a choice. That's the thing, is with the time constraints, it's like, okay, let's, it's 35 weeks or 36 weeks. Here's your GBS swab. This is how you do it. Off you go and do it. Or, okay, you're 40 weeks now, so we're going to, I've given you the information. Let's talk about induction. Here I can fit you in. We can fit you in this timetable. And that's kind of it. Whereas the doulas will talk to you about, okay, here are the pros, here are the cons. What do you think? Where do you sit? It's not about what I think or even what the evidence says necessarily. It's about, what are you comfortable with?
Talking to a VBAC mum today, I just recorded another podcast. And, there was that reality check when she was told, you've got to come in for an induction, today. They wanted her to stay in the hospital and be induced then. And she's like, well, actually, I really need to go home and pack my bag and I want to have breakfast and and then I'll come back. She said, yeah, don't dawdle. And then she comes in, she doesn't dawdle. And then it's like 8 hours later, they start the induction, And so really important as well, that's just one little example, to realise that an induction is not requiring an emergency C-section. It's very different. That is, when we go straight for a C-section, it is an emergency in some cases, right? And that if you are in an emergency, that is what's going to be recommended. And so with induction, there's flexibility, realising that a lot of inductions will take up to 3 days to birth a baby with an induction, with the stages to it. And so just understanding that there's mobility around that as well, I think is a really important conversation to have.
And that kind of goes into, that kind of, I guess, explanation of what's going to happen and what the potential knock-on effects of that, because we know, I guess, when we're looking at those kind of iatrogenic issues, like increased rates of epidural, increased rates of cesarean, increased rates of instrumental, all of that increases.
Very, very high rates of dissatisfaction as well with birth experience.
What's really interesting is the research hardly ever looks at, the woman's experience, because we're just looking at this kind of physical outcome, because that's where the litigation is. But, the emotional impacts are huge. And that's the other thing doulas do, is either kind of first-time mums who want to have a normal birth usually, or second-time or even third-time mums who've had really a lot of trauma and they know they need that extra support. I just think that, I can't kind of recommend highly enough just getting the doula, getting education, seeing what's right for you. Because you can't have less support, I think, in this time, and particularly with first-time babies, or any types of trauma. And we know trauma is either usually through interventions that have happened that you haven't wanted to happen or you haven't felt in control of. And that's what that brand education, that's what the brand is so good for, and the education is so good for. You're kind of prepared of, what may happen, you kind of got a decision-making process in that. But it also does depend on where you birth and who's there. And I think, when we do have an induction, there are so many effects, not just to you, but also to bubs. We do know bubs will, go to probably have respiratory issues for longer. And often, I always think about when you've got that kind of knock-on effect of the baby's being born a little bit early, they're not maybe as vigorous at the breast. You might have had an epidural and all that kind of stuff, which really does impact potentially their ability to breastfeed and kind of get that started as well. So you kind of also knock on this effect, and we're kind of concerned about bigger babies, but bigger babies are going to be more vigorous. They have more fat in labour to deal with labour, and a longer labour, which is first-time labour, they have more fat to deal with, small amounts of colostrum and using up that in between. And they're also more vigorous. They have more brain development. They have more lung development inside. So I think induction is one of those things we're deeffinitely getting wrong. I mean, you can't, the rates are huge. They're above 50%. We can't say 50% of women and babies don't know when to be born, right?
It's
just fundamentally wrong.
No, they're just being pushed into the silo of risk through risk factors, and they're certainly not being placed into an induction pipeline because of an individualized assessment of medical conditions and needs. So that's, I think, the big distinction that each person has to work with individually, and this is why I love having conversations, because this is a deeper dive than what we do in the She Births education. It's impossible to have, a 20-minute conversation about induction, which we could go on for another 2 hours. And I just want to point out people that they can spend time with you in 10 days' time at a She Births course with you. And it just shows you how deep these topics are and how we need education. And then we use these Instagram times and the podcast to do deeper dives. And we also really recommend Dr. Sarah Wickham as her website in terms of GBS and induction, her work at analysing and assessing the research. But then that She Births education and the doula work to help you with alternatives as well, So you really need to, we all know, we're all trying to get, a master's degree in pregnancy to try and manage birth. It's ridiculous everyone's.
And I think that's what it goes back to, is that support, kind of that knowledge, trust in yourself, and that support is really important. And in early labour for first-time mums, that does mean, yes, your partner, but it's the first time they're going through it. But it does mean a doula, because they come to your home and, they see that natural physiology. So if you're supporting that natural physiology, that's, I guess, they see and do. So, yeah.
Right. Hey, we need to get to dinner.
Yeah. I'll keep talking for guys.
I'm a talker. Someone's saying, I have an obstetrician. Is She Births for me if I'm planning a hospital birth? Well, yeah, absolutely. Yes. She Births is for everybody. Our sort of population, 30% of the Australian population chooses to have a private obstetrician. That number's actually getting a bit smaller, I think, at the moment. And we're pretty similar to that in the She Births cohort as well. So, yeah, we're there. There's a community. Some people are home birth, some people are hospital, some people are birth centre, some people are delivery suite in the public, and some people are free birth as well. So that's also growing at the moment. Someone just said, a huge thank you. I had the most beautiful birth last week and I'm in awe of my body. The breathing got me through it.
Amazing. Yay. That's what every woman should feel.
What's the most common thing you say in the birthing room to a labouring woman?
What's the most common thing I would say?
Yeah, like doula as a midwife. I know the most common thing I say, but which tool are you guiding them to? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the breathing through those contractions. Nice, big, slow breaths. And often, like, one of my hot tips is, it's 3 big, long, slow breaths to the peak, maybe 4. You're coming off that hill. So I think it's like just one breath at a time. And then often you get to kind of know, whether that contraction is getting longer or not. And I might just extend it out, 3 more breaths and you'll be at the peak. So I always just kind of really, bring it down to that basic, that very basic. Yeah. Because anything's doable. I would say anything's doable for 60 seconds, but anything is doable for 2 or 3 breaths. Right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right. So, chunk it right down.
Chunk it and right down off the edge.
With them. Like when you really connect, observe somebody's breath, you're really connected with them. You're really with them every micro nanosecond, really. So it's a beautiful way of holding someone, giving them that presence through the ride, through the wave. It's beautiful. Is there anything else to anybody out there?
I think that every woman has self-doubt in themselves, whether they can do it. And I just want to tell them that bloody all can. They're all awesome. And when you don't believe in yourself, we totally do. So just keep that one there. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. Beautiful, Caitlin. I'll let you go back to your exams and
fun day.
All of that stuff. Thank you for being with us. Big love to you.
Looking forward to the course too and seeing all those beautiful. All right, darling.
Yeah. Lots of love. See you soon. Bye.
And now for a quick break. At She Births, the mother is at the centre of everything we do. We believe that birth and matrescence is a sacred rite of passage, and we believe that the journey is unique for everyone. Wherever you are in your journey, She Births is here to support you. Starting with our free pregnancy guide, which offers you 6 months of weekly support. You will receive nourishment for body, mind, and soul via your inbox and engage with content within our free app. Enjoy yoga videos, recipes, birth affirmations, course discounts, and so much more to help you feel calm, connected, and inspired for birth. Sign up online to our free pregnancy guide on our website, shebirths.com, and download our free app today in any app store.
Welcome, everybody, to our Tuesday night Ask Us Anything, AUA rather than AMA. And I just thought it would be great to just take this opportunity to celebrate and introduce you to our educators. And Sarah Beale has been a friend for many years. Yay, hello. We met at Satchinanda Ashram in Mangrove Mountain, and you were with your kiddies, and I was doing a retreat with some friends, and you were just starting midwifery, and you were really busy and traveling, and I just knew you'd be a great educator, so I'm very excited that you've joined our team.
Yay. Finally.
We did it. We got here.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's awesome. So we've got 30 minutes to get through as many questions as possible. And if you're joining in, feel free to just type in any kind of quizzes that you have that you want to ask a doula and a midwife, and anything: pregnancy, birth, parenting, matrescence, choosing your birth course, all that kind of stuff. We're going to try and cover a lot of that. Why don't we jump in, I suppose just so, what we can say. You ask me a few quizzes, Sarah, and then I'll get my list up from others.
So what about for people that are new around here? Maybe you could tell us a little bit, Nadine, about why you created She Births.
Yeah, for sure. So I started creating She Births over 14 years ago, and it was clearly because there was such a need for women to have better education, to go into birth feeling more informed. I'd come out of my birth experience and had that moment of looking at my partner. You know, when you look at someone and it's like you can hear the thought bubbles, like without them having to speak. And we were just like looking at each other after a long posterior labor, just like, what the heck was that? We were not prepared. And so after this long, arduous labor, I wanted to understand more about birth. And I became very passionate about learning and studied lots of courses and became a doula. And then as a doula, so this is 20 years ago, I really saw how education made such a difference to outcome, and also that woman's sense of empowerment, how important that was. And I wanted to create a course that didn't just change outcomes, but awoke that kind of woman that we're birthing into, that woman that's loving our child but also really loves us, that you know, becoming the empowered, connected, amazing women that we are through birth, that's full of self-love and acceptance and finds their birth beautiful and empowering no matter what. So it was about this maternal satisfaction as well as, you know, more natural births. That was it.
And the preparation. And what do you think are the most powerful elements of She Births?
Yeah, I think it's obviously people love the course. It keeps on going. I think it is that combination of the curriculum, this really broad, comprehensive curriculum, and within that broad, like, you know, Sarah, like, it's crazy how much we fit in to 2 days. Like, I do not dumb down at all. And I just find in adult education, people like just keep it so simple that they're not talking to the highest possibility. And I wanted everyone, especially partners, to be super engaged. So lots of knowledge, broad curriculum. Within that curriculum, we've got the most broad and expansive toolkit of resources, inner and outer resources. Prior to She Births, you know, you had to do one course over here that had a little bit of inner resources, and then another course over here that had a little bit about outer resources, and they both kind of carried a dogma of birth perfection. And She Births was this broad curriculum, this massive amount of knowledge that's continually being updated, and it has this philosophy, this doula philosophy, which is about embodying the woman that we are. Yeah. So it's the two.
Beautiful.
It's the two. Yeah. Thanks, darling, for asking me those quizzes. What about you? When you notice, I suppose, as a midwife, like when people have done She Births, does it feel different for you? Do you see a difference in the birthing suite?
Definitely. They're more engaged in every single way of the word. They're more engaged in the decision making. They're just engaged in the whole, you know, they present, they know what's going on, they've got an idea about what they want, they're coming with their preferences. And along that, you know, and as well, I think with the partner having been on that journey with them, the partner attending the course with them is just so vitally important, and the difference that makes of them both being knowledgeable and you know, the dad actually feeling like he actually has a role to play, or the partner, that they have a key role to play to support mum. That is absolutely fundamental, and to see that play out, as opposed to having a partner that's sitting in the corner scared and, you know, is hiding under the I've seen it that way too. So I think that is just so fundamental in mum being able to relax and let go and come into her primal self is enormous. That they're both beautifully educated, and many families aren't, which is so sad. But you know, the difference it can make, and being informed in the birth, in the decisions they're making along the way, and being present, and hopefully at the end of the day coming out with the birth that they'd hoped for and dreamed of, which is what we're really preparing them for with She Births.
That's right. Exactly. So maybe let's switch in, because you have worked at numerous like birth centres and delivery suites along the East Coast. But there's, you know, elements to that are universal. That is, you know, I think people are a bit confused by what are the differences between a doula and a midwife and a birth educator. Like, how would you answer that from your experience of being, you know, both of us are yoga teachers, both of us are doulas, and you've gone on and done midwifery, so you've kind of got that broad experience as well.
Yeah. So there is a huge difference there. So a midwife is medically trained. You know, a midwife has one way or another completed a bachelor's degree in midwifery or a postgrad certificate in midwifery, having been a nurse firstly, and you are medically trained as a midwife, and you work within a scope of practice. If you're working within a hospital, you know, have policies that you're following. You're working alongside doctors who are assisting with decision making, and you're advocating for the woman in the journey that she's choosing for her birth and pregnancy journey. So the difference with a doula is that they are beautifully trained as well, but very differently, that there's not that medical knowledge. Of course, you know, as they work and their experience broadens, they're going to be gathering up a lot of medical knowledge along the way, but they don't fundamentally have that medical knowledge to carry out. Yeah, and you know, we're doing a lot of various procedures and things that might be required during the birthing process as a midwife as well. So a doula is a key part of a birth, you know, to support not only mum but dad as well, and it, you know, can really then become that beautiful team effort in the birth room. And you know, previously in years gone by, we would have had, you know, not only doulas but potentially grandmothers in the birth room, and you know, various extended family members, sisters, siblings. But certainly things have changed, and it has been really, really difficult for people during the whole COVID thing, with not only being able to potentially have one support person with them. Hopefully things are starting to change a little bit out there now.
Absolutely. So I like to sort of say to people, the difference is, like you say, you know, you're employed by the hospital unless you're a private practicing midwife. And even as a private practicing midwife, you can sometimes be constrained by protocols of the hospital and implementing policies, and X number of vaginal exams, and vaginal exam upon arrival might be part of the protocol, whether that's part of your internal belief system or not as a midwife. Whereas doula, I'm employed directly by the couple. And so if my couple doesn't want to have a vaginal exam upon arrival, maybe because she was there a few hours ago just being checked and she had one just 2 hours before, and it's kind of ridiculous sometimes, you know, to have fingers up the vag, because it's a bit disturbing. So my job as the doula, rather than the person that has to carry it out, my job is to say, is that really necessary? You know, could we just get mum really comfortable first, set her up in the bath? We were just here a couple of hours ago. She's been labouring beautifully. I've been with her the whole time. There hasn't really been much of a progression. She's nowhere near transition. So I can talk from that experience because I provide that continuity, and my job is educational, emotional, support for the mum and the partner, and assisting in that advocacy in a different way, you know. But yeah, we don't perform vaginal exams, we don't do blood pressure checks, we don't work with shoulder dystocia, but we know that trauma, I think it's really important because that's so much a conversation now. Trauma comes about for the majority of women, 70% of the women who experience trauma during their birth, it comes about through the way someone speaks to the woman.
Yeah.
And so I know as a doula, I help in this extremely neuroplastic state of childbirth. I help the woman to, often I know that people are behaving, providers are behaving very differently because there is a doula there as a buffer as well. They're much more conscious of how they speak and when they speak, not talking to a woman during a contraction. But I'll often help the woman kind of understand what's being spoken and help her reframe and give alternatives as well, and suggestions. So I think, you know, I think we need both, because we provide safety and security in two different ways. And what is beautiful is when the whole team is there, the whole safety net is there in all these different layers, right? An informed partner, a doula, the midwife, and the obstetrics team. They're observing if in that rare instance there needs to be someone to step in, right? Like that's ideal for all women, and every woman all around the globe deserves it, even though many don't get it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, did she births change the way that you practiced? I know lots of educators that have worked with me have said, like, when they did the she births training and they started teaching she births, it did change the way that they did appointments in the antenatal clinic and assisted at births as well. Have you found that yet?
Yeah, I've definitely found, because with where I'm working at the moment, it's a little bit tricky to go too deeply into a lot of what we share in she births, because I'm working with women in custody right now. But definitely when I'm in birth suite, I'm just even feeling much more empowered even as a midwife, and it's taken me right back to the core of why I came to this work and why it's just reignited my passion again, and it's just inspired me to keep learning and learning and learning and delving more and more, because I want to be able to share more and more with my clients in my courses and have that depth of knowledge to be able to share with them. So it's definitely it's just layering upon layering, like, you know, deeper knowledge, and so that I have, you know, the best knowledge to be able to share with new families out there. And I think I'm even able to advocate and speak up a little bit more for women as well in birth suite when I'm there. I think because now getting a little bit further on into my career, but just realizing what a voice I do have. And yeah, even if it has just been an anaesthetist coming into the room, turning on the lights and, you know, having a conversation, handing over to, you know, a colleague in the room, I'm like, hang on a minute. So yeah, I think,
beautiful.
Just bringing the sanctity of birth back, you know, because you can get so blinded by the system, and just that remembrance of actually, the sacredness of birth, especially in a busy tertiary delivery suite. It can get a little bit.
I know. So thank you so much for bringing that word sacred in. Like, that's really ultimate. And as you know from the She Births educator training, like, that is the ultimate goal of She Births, is to restore the sacredness of birth and parenthood. It's not just about the mums, it's about the partners too. It's to restore that sanctity to family, that honour, and it begins with that education in pregnancy. And I suppose one other thing, as an educator, that difference between educator, doula, midwife, I forgot to sort of say, I think there's elements that we really try to bring into She Births of that doula, that sisterly holding space. That's what we try to bring in to a She Births course as well, isn't it? So much love, connection, and holding, that safety.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because every midwife also love to bring that into the room and the space, but often, we always do have so much else, sadly, is required by us to do, including a lot of documentation, and, you're writing by these protocols and policies that, you have to abide by within the hospital system. So there's always a lot for your midwife to be doing when they're caring for you.
There is policies, protocols, power play, paperwork, all those P's that can get in the way.
Yeah.
Of birth.
They sure do.
Why nurses and midwives are underpaid.
So we've got some other questions here as well.
Thanks. Yeah. Just rambling on about your pay rate.
Oh, don't take me there.
Oh, yeah, some other questions. Okay, hang on. I'll read this first one out. Question from Kate. Thanks for keeping me on task. I have a friend who did she birth. She had a great experience, refreshing when everyone wants to tell you their trauma stories. I'm not entirely sure why people tell mums to be their horror stories. Why does that happen, Sarah?
Well, everyone listens, don't they? Horror sells, isn't that what we're just guided by day in, day out on the news stories? Sadly, where are the good news stories? We rarely hear them, don't we?
That's so true.
And we do talk about this in our She Births course as well, just really alerting people, because this is what people see. Everyone's seen women giving birth on their backs, watching one born in every minute. It's just, It sells.
That sells. Trauma sells, disaster sells. It proliferates. The human mind is encoded that way to receive negativity 5 times faster than it does positivity. And that is the great problem with horror stories. And I don't want to belittle anyone's birth experience. I believe that those women who have horror stories should come to people like us who can hold that space and who understand why shit happens at birth. And that doesn't always come from, say, seeing a psychologist, for example, because sometimes, which is another conversation to have, but more trauma-informed practitioners like us are able to help. But it's not cool telling people who are pregnant a trauma story, because it does get encoded on top of all the other negative stuff, and we want to lean into the positivity. And so, they tell the stories because they need to debrief. Love them.
Yeah. Ideally, in an ideal world, while you're pregnant, if you can surround yourself, and it's really then about building the community that, you want around you. And it's an opportunity to do that, and surrounding yourself with the good stories. And I mean, if you possibly can, you can always let people know, I'm not actually wanting to hear these stories right now. Maybe after I've birthed, I've had my baby, we can talk more about this. But right now, I'm really, really surrounding myself with the good news stories and positivity, because that's what can really make a difference leading up to birth. Hey?
Totally. And in terms of positive stories, I subscribe to a wonderful email list called Future Crunch, and it's just like 100 good news things from around the world. Like, I think I get it once a week or once.
Oh, great! You can sign up for it. Hey, a daily feed. Okay, in your inbox. Nice.
So good. All right, you want to go to the next one? Can you see? Oh, you can't see it.
It's okay. So we had a question here from Christine. So she says she talks about the first 6 to 12 weeks of her pregnancy, and they were pretty rough. I'm sorry to hear that, Christine. But she's feeling on top of it now. As long as she doesn't let herself get too hungry, that's great. I'm glad that you're learning to manage things. Really good tip there. And she goes on to say that she knows it's a huge question, but what do you think really helped you prepare emotionally and physically for your births? Birth. I think preparation at the end of the day is the key, because we never know what's going to unfold, but at least the preparation is absolute key, that we can educate ourselves. And I think we all pretty much gain a master's degree while we're pregnant, hey, like diving into all the information we can possibly lay our hands on. But emotionally, I don't even know that we are, as much as we can prepare, that unfolding of the mother and leading into crossing that bridge, I think, into motherhood from maiden to mother is just so huge. And we never know what is going to come up at this time. You know, maybe we've had things in our relationship with our mothers and grandmothers that, you know, is a great time during pregnancy or not, you know, to look further and deeper into these things. But that preparation and something like She Births is a great way to certainly educate yourself as far as, you know, we dive so much into not only just your labor and birth and the stages of labor, but, you know, really looking at peeling away, you know, looking at the inner resources. What can we use to help us achieve, you know, the best birth that we're after? Nadine, you can talk a lot better than me about all of this.
I think that psychological preparation, you touched on it, that peeling back the onion and considering, you know, where we've come from, what's the storyline, the red thread that we are carrying. Mm-hmm. We talk at She Births about the different ways that you can explore your own relationship to birth and what it really is in the subconscious. Mm-hmm. So I don't believe that there's one path for all people. I don't believe that there's one diet for every person. I think we're all completely unique. And so that psychological and emotional preparation, I think, first requires, you know, the She Births kind of curriculum that you and your partner go through. And then when you listen and hear the ways that birth can unfold and consider some of the conversations around the family that you came from, your first exposure to birth, what that felt like for you, you start to unpack this sort of tangled ball of red thread. And I think if we can untangle this red thread a little bit, this sort of matrilineal and patrilineal line that's there in the subconscious, as well as be present to fears that arise. Fears are often a great cue and a clue to you know, what might be in the way for us of letting go during birth. So, yeah, I think it's a journey and it is unique to everyone. And I think the education that we give over the 2 days is deep, but at the same time, we expect people to go away and continue exploring individually, because I think that's really important to own your birth and own that unique journey towards towards birth as well.
So I think if fears are coming up, you know, it's you know, sometimes a time during the course itself when the fears might come up, and then the time post the course is maybe really, well, it is a time when you can then explore these further and unpack them more. And really dive into those. And I think Maeve had a question next where she is along similar lines, just asking, was your birth experience anything like you expected? And again, with the preparation, I think for myself, learning from my first birth experience to my second birth experience, I think again, and now where I am as a midwife and an educator, just seeing the power of the mind. And really, you know, in She Births, we do talk about, you know, have the, you know, the dream, reach for the stars, have the dream that the birth that you really dream of having. And I think this is so important that if we can actually map this out and totally reach for the stars, and, you know, look at, watch some amazing positive birth stories, which we have a heap of in the app there and online, you know, a great birth stories, you know, some really good podcasts. If we can surround ourselves with all of this beautiful information that's sort of feeding the subconscious mind to the birth that you really do dream of having, that this can make all the difference in that unfolding for you. And I think, no, I don't think my birth initially, if I look back, definitely not to the first or second, anything like I really had expected. I even remember with my daughter, my second birth, you know, my mucus plug had gone. I remember just reading, you know, a birth book on the toilet with the mucus plug had gone, just going, oh my God, that's right. What is going to happen now? We just never know what's going to unfold, do we? And but certainly for me, that birth was amazing. I turned that around and surrounded myself with positive energy and thoughts, and had the most amazing pain-free birth and breathed this baby out. So it's possible.
It is possible. Yeah, the mind is incredibly plastic. So, you know, aiming for the best is a really powerful way to prepare psychologically. But at the same time, because this is an extraordinary rite of passage, this is a blood mystery, you know, we're going through from maiden to mother and your partner to a parent. It's so important that you understand that it is a mystery and that you're walking a labyrinth, you know. So I like to say that birth is like running a marathon in the lower half of your body with hurdles along the way, some of them bigger than others, right? And then in the upper half of your body, in the mind, you're kind of walking this labyrinth. And as you're walking this labyrinth that feels like a maze, but it's not designed to get you lost, you're walking this labyrinth, you're peeling back the onion, you know, peeling back the fears and the blocks and everything that is holding on, because birth is all about opening and letting go. It's different in that second stage, in that pushing stage. It's about roaring and it's more upright and it's a very different kind of active element. But that yielding and that opening of the cervix is this letting go. And it's literally having that intention will allow you to just see whatever you need to see. Birth will be the teaching that you need, as well as what you set yourself up for as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a question, Maeve. I love it. How important is perineal massage? I just don't feel very sure about it.
I love perineal massage. So I was actually listening today to the Midwife's Cauldron, and this incredible professor, Helen O'Connell, was on there, and they talked a bit about perineal massage, but just how incredible our bodies are and how the labia and the genital, like how everything does stretch so amazingly well. And we are made for this. You know, we are completely and utterly built for birthing our babies as women. But certainly the perineal massage is so important if it is something that you feel aligned to. It is recommended from 35 weeks. You can find on YouTube some little guides for this. Can be something fun that you can do with your partner. You know, getting some coconut oil and really just taking things to stretch. There are some gadgets out there as well that can help you with this if you feel that if you're a bit of a gadgets person. But along with perineal warm packs are also used pretty much standard practice these days. We're generally, midwives will ask for your consent before obviously touching your perineum, but usually as baby's crowning, we're using some warm packs on your perineum. This is all part of the perineal bundle, which is widely used in most hospitals these days. But I would suggest it's really, really something super helpful to do towards, yeah,
and there's studies showing that when people practice perineal massage from 35 weeks on, 1 to 2 times a week, they have less perineal pain and trauma after birth. So there's big reviews that have been done showing that. So it is important to build that connection to this part of the body, to feel it tense. Some nights it'll be tight. You haven't had a bath and you've been thinking about work, or you've been on your feet all day, and it'll be more tight, and to feel how your ability to connect and to breathe into that space and learn how to let it go on top of everything Sarah is great. Okay, we're flying. Here we go. I'm having a home birth. Will she births be appropriate? Absolutely. We've got
absolutely
talking, and we've got home birth videos to watch. 0.1% of the Australian population chooses to have a home birth, which is very little out of the 300,000 births a year. But of the she births population, it's more around the 10% of our community. So it's, you know, a massive, that's 100 times, I think, I'm really bad at maths, but 100 times more than find in, say, standard birth education. And the difference between she births and calm birth, pretty big differences. I suppose first thing I can say is we're the only scientifically verified program in the world, as we have that very doula-based empowerment sort of sacred element to us. Our philosophy is very different, and we also have that bigger, broader toolkit. And I think we teach a lot more. And, of course, we have the app that no other courses have, which allows you to continue learning and do things in videos in that prep for labour and when you go on mat leave and watch all the birth stories there. And, of course, we have our podcast, which has stuff that's available for everybody, but there's a lot more in-depth, beautiful stuff to really hold you and support you in that lead up to birth. Jackie asked...
There's one here from Jackie. Is it a hip squeeze or a glute squeeze? Do you press the top of the pelvis?
Well, people have been... people have been copy-pasting the SheBirths tools, and I've been seeing that on Instagram. People that are starting their own SheBirth, like birth courses, but they're not actually birth workers, which is very suspicious and weird. So I saw this actually on someone's Instagram, and they were describing the bilateral squeeze as pressing on the top of the pelvis. And I'm like, if you do that to a lady in the middle of labor, she's going to like turn around and slap you. So it is specifically, I feel like my partner, Amy, keeps getting the wrong spot with this squeeze. Yes. So it is in the glutes. So if you watch those videos, Amy, in the online course, it comes down from the hips, and then there's the little creep, the child alive, and then pushing inwards. So keep moving the thumbs around until you find the most nervy, the most, the most kind of painful point. So you've got to be really in a conversation. So even though your head's down in a child's pose, you've got to keep pressing around.
Isn't it? It's really on
the glutes, but not on the bones. Try not to do it on the bones.
Down here, further down.
Yeah, we can't see the heel of your hand. But the
sorry. And it really is that in and then up as well, isn't it? With the heel of the hand.
Yeah, it's very much that inward, I think, and the thumb. Use the thumbs to find it. And I think it might not be super like raw right now and like right now, but in labour, she'll point your hand there. Like, and bring your own hands around and feel, and try doing it to your partner. Do a swapsy. That always helps as well. So Amy and Jackie, send us another DM if you're finding it hard, and literally just get on Insta and we'll look at you and see if we can help. And also a doula will be able to help as well. Oh my God, we got some more questions. We keep going. Postpartum questions, which is your big, Sarah. You love working in the postpartum.
I do love the postpartum.
You're welcome. Okay, so I'm on the online course. This is Jackie, excited for labour, but partner works 7 days a week. And so a lot of the time this mummy's going to be, on her own at home, and she wants to understand what to bring in to her postpartum. So...
Well, I'd say first up, I'm super excited that she's preparing for her postpartum during pregnancy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep. So what do you think she needs? Like, she's saying mothercraft or night nanny. What's the difference?
Well, postnatal doula, this is someone, mothercraft, night nanny. I think, this could be somebody that you might bring into the home a little bit later. Potentially not somebody that's actually medically trained, but it would be somebody, if you were having trouble and really feeling alone, isolated with your partner working so much, potentially sometimes partners are even having to sleep in another room because they can't be woken at night. And that's maybe when you might bring someone in like that would be able to help during the night, stay over. But really a postpartum doula, you could probably listen to Nadine's podcast with Naomi from Cocoon. That would be a really great place to get some tips. And postpartum doulas really do have different packages. So have a look at what's important for you. A lot of them are working within the Ayurvedic way of cooking, and even using steaming and daily massage and that sort of thing. And of course, all of this is really leaning into the first 40 days. So, a lot of traditions through the last centuries and centuries in other parts of the world have lent hugely into nurturing our new mums. And of course, us here in the Western society, we've just skipped past this and expected everyone to get back to work and get on with life. And of course, we've really sadly looked at postnatal depression skyrocketing and this sort of thing. So if we can put some time into preparing for the postpartum, and we do have the availability to do that, can just be the best thing to just nurture this new mum. So, what's important? Is it massages? Do we need somebody coming in and cooking some meals? Maybe even they can help you in antenatally, help you organise a food train, a meal train, maybe getting your friends to put in everybody loves helping out the new mum. And it might not be that they need to come and hold the baby. It's more so about just trying to assist mum getting, do you need somebody to come and do some light housework just to keep the house ticking away? It can just feel really overwhelming when you're exhausted and up through the night. Your attention, hopefully is just on falling in love with your baby and breastfeeding if that's what you choose to do. So, it can be overkill to maybe engage a lactation consultant and a postpartum doula and a nurse, night nurse, nanny, because we don't know, your breastfeeding might go really well. You might not need to actually engage them, but of course, like having contacts. Hello, is that Delilah? Okay. Having contact, having these people on standby. But of course, massage, belly binding, is just beautiful to have there in these first few weeks. So I think, the massage after the first few days, you can have somebody coming into the house. And again, some people, there are packages out there, but they can really even tailor packages to suit you.
Yeah.
And after a cesarean, obviously things are going to be a little bit slower there with the massage and belly binding.
Totally. Yeah. So from my perspective, I would say the lactation consultant can come in only if there's issues. A night nanny, like I agree, a bit later. Massage and binding, beautiful. I prefer just simple binding myself, just with our postnatal belly belts. But massage is really important to settle the nervous system. The nervous system is vata aggravated, we say in an Ayurvedic perspective. Women's health physio is 6 weeks time. Made for Mothers is divine food. You've got to get some of that in your freezer. And like Sarah said, Meal Train is a great website. It's totally free. And if anyone wants to, set that up with you or for you, it's a beautiful way to engage your community. So listen to, Naomi podcast, but also the one coming out this week is with Dr. Oscar, how not to go into postnatal depletion, how to plan for postpartum, how to actually experience postpartum as an upgrade, because that's actually what it's designed for. So there's a lot more tips in that, but get the village is the way it is. But I really just want to encourage you all to share the love. Sarah has a course coming up in July and August. I'm sold out this weekend, and then I've got myself Byron Bay in August, and then Sydney in September. So we're here. We're still teaching. Literally Made for Mothers order literally arrived an hour ago. That we love Jess. I just bought a whole bunch of Jess's food for Leroy, my son, who had that yucky flu that's going around. So he had lots of that. The link is in the show. And any other DMs you have, just send them through. We're here for you guys. Thank you so much for joining. We love you. Enjoy your pregnancy. Enjoy your birth. You want to say anything else, Sarah?
Just you can find me through SheBirth or also through my fairly new page, which is Nurture by Nature Sydney. So, if you need to DM at all or whatever, Beautiful. Best wishes with everything. Thank you so much, Nadine.
Big love. I'll speak to you soon. Thanks, Jackie. Lots of love, guys. See ya.
Thanks. Bye.
I'm Nadine Richardson, and you've been listening to the SheBirths Show. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. We'd love to know what you would like to hear more of. You can find me and my team of amazing doulas and educators at shebirths.com and our awesome community on Instagram and Facebook. Within any good app store, you can download our free pregnancy guide via She Births, 2 separate words and plural, as well as access our range of online courses. Remember, when it comes to having a better birth, an easier transition into parenthood, your education is your empowerment. Don't forget to check out the catalogue of previous podcasts, and thank you for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed the show.